Yo, Scrawny with the skinny, back at it with the fantasy land, and feeling pretty good. We're riding the hype train, all right? Thanks to the performance of Shuhei, MVP performance, top 6% finish for playoffs, and that's despite not getting the Astralis upsets that I wanted. Yes, they beat Liquid, but they fall to Vitality, barely, and when that happened, I thought for sure, maybe top 25 if I'm lucky, but with the nature of the Shuhei carry, we ended up getting in there. So like 20 teams off a top 5% finish, which would have given us 3 more points, whatever. The fact that just an event ago, I had the right teams predicted, but the wrong players from said teams, and that could have also been a top 10% finish. I'm feeling pretty solid coming into Bet Boom. We've got 4 events left on this season. That's Bet Boom, 2 for Dallas. I'm assuming it'll get divided like Chengdu, and then, of course, the spring finals to close it all out. Now, those 4 events, I need 11 points to get into the always coveted top 5 of the celebrity leaderboard. I am that damn close. 136 to Nart's 147. I can do this. I know I can. Maybe even 4th. But that's a stretch. Just 5. That's all we need. Bet Boom Dacha, pretty straightforward event. I feel like everybody's already kind of talking about what will be the MOUZ Spirit Grand Finals. I anticipate that will be the Grand Finals. For Group A, I think MOUZ defeat Bet Boom easily in the opening. I think Virtus.pro actually over Falcons. Despite Virtus.pro's current struggles with, I think, Norbert's form dropping off significantly and Electronic not kind of coming in and taking the firepower to a new level like everybody was really hoping. Flit has been awesome. Jame has been consistent. Fame, there's always promise in him. And I think that core right there just has Falcons covered in every level. The Dupree addition to Falcons has still felt uninspired. I just see VP on paper and think to myself, they've got him covered. It's going to be some tight, close games. Yes, VP almost lose to Mongols, but look what they do. They do their comeback as they always happen to pull it off. So Virtus.pro will only continue to get better in my mind, and I don't see how, the recent addition of Dupree to Falcons really gives this team a new ceiling. So VP defeat Falcons, MOUZ defeat Bet Boom, MOUZ beat Virtus.pro in the, to secure top seed. Virtus.pro will beat Falcons in a rematch as well. I don't think you can get in James' head in a rematch. The adaptability of Falcons I don't quite think is there. So MOUZ, Virtus.pro moving from the Group A. Group B, Spirit are going to smash Aurora, and then Heroic versus MIBR, I think is a tough call. We're getting Degster now to Heroic instead of Nikodas. I think that, we haven't seen Degster play an official in over 6 months at least. And so it's a weird one, right? Is he just going to step into the server and absolutely smash like he used to for OG, right? I mean, Degster and Flames were the reason we ever talked about OG with that Fiku formula. So when I look at his addition, I just think, damn, that's a long time to go without officials. Will he be able to carry form in enough to defeat who I think could be the challenger here in MIBR? MIBR as a team, decent. I can't say I have a super close look on them, but I'm always a little hesitant when Insomnia is in the server because MIBR have shown us promise at these sorts of events. And in that head-to-head, I really think it's a 50-50. The quality and caliber of player in Heroic is better, but I almost think that, again, because of the roster shuffle, because of Degster just being out of officials for as long as he has been, maybe the team play of MIBR can best them. Individually, though, the ceiling on Heroic is still higher, let's be real. It's just weird that Kixan's individual level has fallen off, and again, you're coming in with a new op. Tess and Shush have both been hot and cold. It's a weird one. Either way, Spirit top the group. Whoever has to go up against Spirit, I'm sorry, you're done for. We haven't seen them since their failure at the Copenhagen Major, and I feel like Chopper has been in the workshop keeping this team up to snuff. Here's where I'm at in the draft. Xerxin, Shuhei, Zontix, Chopper. Usually I just reveal the draft, but it's a tough one to call at the moment, right? Because if you do this, which I think tapping into Shuhei's level at the moment, you got to go for it. Xerxin has just been the best player on MOUZ. I think more consistently. Yimfat has higher ceilings, but he had a cold playoffs. Brolin has actually just had some pretty cool games as well, and if I had Xerxin instead of Brolin in these last couple of drafts, with MOUZ, then I'd be better off. So I'm kind of low on Brolin at the moment. Feel like selling his stocks. And I like Zontix at 211. Feels like a fair price for somebody who usually puts up. There is also this formula with, if you go Brolin, then you drop a Shiro chopper, and then you can hit Norbert. Now, I love the inclusion of Shiro here, but at 223, you do have to hope that Brolin can kind of keep up to Zacian, which is super possible. This is another one of those drafts where you're going to MOUZ, you're going to Spirit, and much like ESL Group C and D, it's going to come down to whether you get the right players, right? And when you look across the board at MOUZ, it can be anybody. It could be Torzi, Zacian, Brolin, Yimfat, all four of those players, and apparently now Shuhei as well is going to start top fragging. So it's like, again, little phase. It's so difficult to predict which of the players are going to be worth it in the end. When I look over at Spirit, there's no way to afford Donk. Chopper feels like the must-have. It's a little extra affordability, and with Magisk being the next, cheapest piece, I don't see the trade-off in the $13,000 difference to really go for Magisk. So Chopper is the must-have. A lot of drafts have him. And Shiro at 223. Now, Shiro's death per round is just something that I always have belief in, because he's constantly alive in rounds, which means he's constantly picking up cleanup kills, if not clutches, if not just getting the opening frags and multi-frags throughout. So this I like a lot, but it's Norbert, man, that leaves me uninspired. Norbert has, we've seen, slowly tapered off, and the inclusion of Electronic hasn't helped. From a 1.06 rating in the last 6 months to a 1.01 rating in the last 3 months to now, I believe, like a 0.8 something in the last month because Pro League was awful for him. So there's, this small chance Norbert suddenly has a turnaround and we look at a 189 price point as a great chance to grab him, or it's going to be more of Norbert's struggles as this decline has now existed over months and you end up sinking your ship off Norbert. This is essentially the most drafted team, I believe. If you look at the most the most drafted players, it is literally in order: Shuhei, Chopper, Brolin, Norbert, Shiro. That is this draft. So you can see it's all about variation in your Spirit lineup. This Donk draft, I don't know if it's actually going to end up being worth it with the caliber of players you get left with around him. I don't see it with Donk. So, like I was saying, where I'm left is Zacian, Shuhei, Zontix, Chopper. You've gotten, real promise in the more affordable riflers, dodging Brolin, dodging Magisk. If you want to switch either of the two, I suggest going for Brolin instead of switching Zontix out for Magisk. And with the 195, all right, we're in an interesting place here, because we either go Norbert, Virtus Pro, we can afford other options. Why take him? Degster at 193. Now, if Degster plays like he did in OG, 193 is a steal. But 6 months without officials, it's a lot to ask. But Degster next to Nertz, Tesses, and Shush, even if he's kind of off, I still look at this caliber of teammate and think, damn, man, we've been waiting for Degster to have a chance with somebody like this. And so Degster seems like the option to draft. But last week I was accused of copying Lucy's draft. So this week, I decided to look at Lucy's video before I made mine. And this is Lucy's team. And if content creation existed in a vacuum, I could make this draft, right? Heroic beating MIBR seems easy enough. They'll go on to lose versus Spirit, and then they just have to play MIBR again? Come on. That seems like a layup. At 193, he's coming in at Nikadaz's price point. You're getting Degster for Nikadaz's price point. It feels like a great way to cheat the system and to draft exactly what you need. But there's another option too, and that's drop. If you think that MIBR's team play is better than what Heroic will be able to do with a player who has been out of the competition for 6 months or more, then drop is the other option. Now, bottom-rated player for MIBR, but in recent times, drop, he's got a little bit of promise in him, okay? We go back to this like weird, finicky Brazilian event where some European talent end up showing up, and, he's got solid ratings versus Apex, who, mind you, were in transition. It's this most recent loss to Aurora that puts me off him, right? But like beating Rooster, Rebels, going up against an OG that looked okay at this event and having these ratings as he does. Yes, there's some, off maps here and there, but it's tempting. I will say, it's tempting to take Drop. It's tempting to take Degster, because Degster at Nikidaz's price, oh, it's so hard to ignore. It's so hard to ignore. Or you hope that Brolin plays as well as Xerxan. You take a little bit of money off of MOUZ, you drop it on Spirit, and you catch yourself Norbert, and then you've got yourself the Corn Dogs. Shiro's death per rounds is too good to ignore. Brolin will play slightly better than he did at Pro League, matching that of Xerxan, and Norbert maybe, hopefully, finally has a little bit of a turnaround and ultimately doesn't have to play versus Spirit as well. That's the kicker with both Degster and, of course, Drop. Whoever ends up winning that game in the opening match has to then go up against Spirit, and that match against Spirit is where they could take a whooping, lose a bunch of points, and ultimately, maybe Norbert can dodge that at least until the playoffs. Because whoever finishes Group A in second plays Spirit in the opening round of playoffs, and I anticipate that to be VP, which means Norbert will eventually have to deal with him too. But at least this inclusion has Shiro, and we know Brolin can match up to Xerxan. It all comes down to whether your MOUZ and Spirit players are the ones to pop off. This event is kind of sketchy. It's hard to predict, but this is where we sit with the Corn Dogs. 4 events left in the season.